When I thought about creating my first independent game that I would someday release to the masses, I was paralysed by choice. Not because I had an abundance of choices, but because I felt like I had so little. The kind of games I like to play are story games with great gameplay set in intriguing worlds. My dream is to create a AAA character action game like Nier Automata, but I know that attempting to make a game of that scale and quality for my first project would be impossible. On the other hand, smaller games with simple gameplay, such as tower defense games, don't really interest me. More power to all the indie game devs out there developing score-based games with waves of enemies of increasing difficulty, but those types of games are not the kind of games I play, and so developing one would be disingenuous. After many abandoned projects and prototypes, I finally committed to creating my dream game. Sort of. You see, I thought to myself, what if I use my limitations to my advantage? What if I turn my weaknesses into my strengths? That brings us to where we are now with the first devlog of my indie character action game, Advent Act. The name, like all other aspects I'm going to show you, is a work in progress, but I think it effectively captures what I want to achieve. The game is an action-adventure game, Advent Act. The game is inspired by games like Nier and its sequel, Nier Automata. I realise though that aspiring to be like these games is futile, especially for a solo developer with limited time and budget. So I think it's better to set my eyes on achieving a simpler version of Nier, something like its predecessor, the cult classic Drakengard. As you can see, the game does not exactly look like a modern title with crisp, high-res graphics. To work with what I have and to make the completion of this project somewhat achievable, I decided to go for a PSX aesthetic. This look will allow me to create low poly models much quicker and cheaper than most other styles. The low resolution textures and signature PS1 warble allows me to make simple textures that don't always need to be perfect. The main visual inspiration is definitely the PS1 classic Vagrant Story. The game is beautiful to look at and has some of the best art direction seen in gaming, period. The character model you see here is only a placeholder. He will be replaced in the future with a custom model, but for the moment, he fits the purpose in conveying the aesthetic I'm going for. I'll save going over the current moveset for the next devlog, as I want to keep this video to being an introduction of the game. I will though go over his current movement options. He can of course idle. With a gentle movement of the left analog stick, he begins to walk. When the analog stick is held almost the full way in any direction, he begins to run. After 5 seconds of uninterrupted running, he breaks out into a sprint. This of course I stole from Nier. He can also jump, and with the press of the circle button, he can roll in the direction his body is oriented in. Now let's address some questions that may pop up. How long will the game be? When will the game be done? How much will it cost?
But I'm gonna save you some time, sweetie, and give you the answer now. I don't know.
At the moment, I'm focusing on developing all the core mechanics and creating a vertical slice that demonstrates the gameplay loop to be seen in the final game. I'm cautious to share any story ideas as those might evolve and change in the future, but for now, this is what you need to know. I'm developing a third-person action game set in a fantasy world with a PSX aesthetic, inspired by games like Drakengard, but hopefully with more engaging combat. If that interests you, and you'd like to follow along with the development of this project, then please consider subscribing and letting me know in the comments what you think of the current developments. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.